It's that time again for another 40K Fanatics podcast. I am Shane. Austin is here. Casey is here. We're a three-man show these days. I know no one on Earth saw last week's podcast, at least on YouTube. We totally bungled it. The really good tarps for the painters were set up at Austin's place. He couldn't get to his computer. Casey had to set up the video. He's forgotten how. We shouted out the commenter that wanted to see the pictures of the Bitz Box models. They didn't make it in. But this week, we're back on track.
We are?
Yeah.
I mean, chugga, choo-choo.
I was playing Train Simulator earlier.
You got your computer out from underneath that good tarp.
Yeah.
It's a heck of a tarp, man. I never heard of the blue painter's tape sticking down your entire livelihood like that. But now we're going to have the stuff. Today we're going to talk about our individual bests and worst 40K experiences, which I think that this would be a good one for people to comment about, and be sure to do that. You can also comment on the Spotify and other places. This is not just a YouTube podcast, if that is where you're getting us. You can get us anywhere that your fine podcasts are given away for free, and be sure to subscribe there, like the video on YouTube, but mainly comment, because we run out of stuff to say, and topics can be difficult. And so if you guys want to suggest topics, you do not have to join any kind of Patreon, as one does not exist right now.
Yeah, jump on the Twitter, jump on the socials, the YouTube, the Spotify, everything. Comment. You could even, like with this one, give us some stories. Give us some stuff from your personal life that is affected by your tabletop hobbies and 40K.
We might just mention you in the next video.
We might do it. We might do it like the homie last time that wants to see what we're actually working on.
Well, at you.
I had a comment about the last pod.
When don't you have a comment?
Well, I saw Casey that on behalf of the greater 40K Fanatics Corporation, you put a political disclaimer letting people know that if they are recovering or celebrating from the events of last week, that they, we love you and whatnot. And I just want to comment, go ahead and put another disclaimer.
Well, there you go.
If you need a recovery from an election cycle, then you might be a lady face.
Wow.
Yeah. Take that.
I mean, we're here. We're not trying to, hate on anybody. You guys are our fans. I mean, you listen to us. So, I mean, we got to give you some gratitude, but, chill. Have a good time. Do your thing.
Let's open up the Bitz Box and get to what we've worked on this week in the miniature gaming hobbies. Austin, what have you been doing?
Once again, I am building dwarves. There's not much I can do over there in that small space I'm working at right now.
I mean, you got any pictures?
Yeah, I can get some pictures.
You got to get some pictures. These dwarves are tiny.
That's Old World, right?
Yeah, they're regimented in their movement trays and everything. They're all ranked up, ready to go, but they're getting there.
I was having some daydreams about what I would do with my elves when they finally allow me to buy something for Old World. And I was thinking that, one, I plan on going kind of hard. And two, I've envisioned them on, like, striding across this ancient, ruined marble tile, right? You ever go to like an old downtown area and there's one building that's just the foundation now, and there's a mosaic left? Yeah, that kind of thing. And then I thought, maybe I'll put a piece of cork down, I'll build all these guys up.
Okay.
And then another part of me said, but I'm probably going to be playing the homie Austin because he's the only person on the planet actually playing Old World, and his dwarves are just on the base with some sand, and my dudes are going to tower over your guys if I do that.
I have the advantage in cutting your Achilles.
My wife loves to joke that I have several habits that make me seem autistic. One of them being painting Warhammer. And I will say, I never agreed with her until I saw those square bases from Old World, and I thought, that's good.
There's a satisfaction that is hardly met besides the square bases on movement trays.
I dig it. I dig it.
I don't like them.
I hate you so much.
I don't like them, but
Yeah.
I like every other part of it.
You'll like them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I have a problem with the squares. It's
Okay.
I really do enjoy the sort of. By the way, someone's going to jail in our immediate vicinity. I don't know if that's coming through on the pod, but there are police sirens all around.
Yeah, this is usually a nice neighborhood. What is the deal?
It's all going to pot. But anyway, I really like the sort of esoteric coherency rules in all these various games.
Yeah.
Age of Sigmar has new ones where everything has to be within a half inch of each other, which they might as well be on movement trays at that point. But they're not, and I kind of like it that way. I don't know. I understand that in a rank and flank, you absolutely must have the sort of flat edges to make it work.
You must have the ranks to flank.
You must have the ranks to flank. But, you know, my problem is I don't see a lot of good solutions for people doing their bases and their movement trays and getting them modeled and interesting. I don't see a lot of good solutions for that because I would like for the edge of the movement trays to have like some crusty something around them as well. And I don't know how to go about that exactly.
I've seen people do that.
I've seen some of it, but it looks a little chintzy to me.
All about that bass.
No treble. Quite a bit of treble in our new podcast setup, though. We've got you guys some pop filters. We're taking comments and suggestions too. I mean,
We're trying.
yeah. At some stage, we're going to have to buy some. I looked them up. They're like $160 big microphones, podcast style microphones. We'll have to get those
After the Patreon.
after the Patreon.
Joe,
and the
we'll meet
modernization.
Joe Rogan. We'll talk with him. We'll get him from him. He'll bum us some.
We'll build us a little studio and have a control room where we'll hire 2 or 3 people to push the buttons and whatnot.
Put egg cartons on the walls.
Yeah, it will be very fancy. Get $7,000 or $8,000 cameras to video the entire experience, so you guys could just see us sit and talk. People love to watch people sit and talk. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's its own piece of hobby if you think about it.
True.
I did another Judge Dredd guy. I did this guy. You can see him on X at 40K Fanatics, or on this video if Austin does his job.
I will be able to now.
I like it. It's going to be cool. So this guy is his name's Homer Blint. He's a Judge Dredd character. He is a guy on a glider suit, and he is the husband of an assassin lady who I've also painted. She's real cool. She has like a poison dart gun that just insta kills whoever she injects if they're knocked unconscious. I think in the comics he's like a peeping Tom. So that's what he's using his
Cringe.
flight for. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's one of these guys for Judge Dredd to punch in the face, and so that's what he's for. And
When you sent me the photo, I thought it was like your take on Vulture from like Spider-Man's coterie of supervillains.
I thought he did look like a Marvel Crisis Protocol guy.
That's what I thought.
yeah, he's a little bit like that, but no, he's a Judge Dredd guy. And so what I tried to do with him
He's
is,
purple.
yeah, he's purple and blue, and I did a lot with the airbrush. So I was watching a really good video on airbrushing from Vince Venturella on YouTube, and that guy, you know, he's got a half dozen golden demons and slayer swords and all that. He's won painting stuff at every level that there is, and he did recently a whole video on airbrushing and sort of, you know, best practices. And I went and got me a bottle of airbrush medium from the Army Painter at the Friendly Little Game Store, and it has transformed my airbrushing, which was already getting to a place that I was really having a good time. But I've got my priming airbrush, and that has freed up the usability of my good airbrush exponentially. And so now what I'm doing is I'm using Army Painter Airs, and I'm finding that like 5 drops of airbrush medium mixed with whatever paint, say 10 to 15 drops of paint thereabout, is getting me this super duper thin, super spray, hardly ever dry tipping consistency. And I think if you were using regular paints, you do almost like half and half.
Yeah.
But it's coming out so smooth and so transparent. And what I'm able to do is just build up and build up and build up and hit kind of exactly where I want to hit, so that I can hit just the top edges of stuff and it be a little brighter, because it's just got more layers, than the initial part.
Your airbrushing's getting on point.
Yeah, and then I'm going back and I'm painting and layering over that and highlighting up and really getting some smooth blending up to the sort of brights that I like to get. But with this guy, another thing I did too is I wanted to dabble in the experimenting with materials, right? So we often talk a whole bunch about non-metallic metal, and that's all about making something look metal that is not.
Yeah.
But I don't think that enough people give enough time toward skin, wood, leather, other materials. And so what I tried to do with this guy's little wing things is I wanted them to look almost like they were like they were a transparent cloth.
Yeah.
And so I hit them with blue over the purple, quite a few layers, and they look a little flat on purpose. And the way I think that I think, and you guys can look at the pictures and tell me what you think, I think I sold the effect because they look that sort of stereotypical airbrush one color flat that you see a lot of people's airbrushing end up as. But because of the contrast that I put in with the rest of him, where it's pretty, where there's a high level of contrast in the highlighting, I think it sells as, those are like little thin, membranes, almost like a if you imagine a tablecloth or a projector screen, that sort of thing is the effect I was going for, and I think I got it.
It looked pretty good from what I saw.
I went hard on his skin too. That was another thing, which I think.
Yeah, you don't like painting faces.
I do like painting faces these days.
You did a good job on that Land Raider, dude.
Yeah, the Land Raider guy. I've just embraced the process of painting a face. I also have done 2 Night Haunt horse guys to go with my Night of Shroud. I finished them.
My daughter loves those, by the way.
So those were interesting. That's another big airbrush job. They're red horses that fade to white and blue riders that fade to white. And I managed to get the bone, the red, the white, the blue, and the other white.
Right.
All onto the thing without having any of it bleed onto anything else. Mm-hmm. And it was the super special strategy and tactic and technique of stick a piece of paper up under the gap between the ghost and the horse. That's all I did.
There you go. It's the job done.
Yeah, and it just works.
There you go. Those transitions were good.
I mean, they look great. The other thing that I cannot help myself with, especially with those Night Haunt, is I cannot stop dry brushing metallics onto a turquoise color to make that like patina metal.
Oh, really?
I can't help myself. And I don't think I want help. It looks so good, especially for Night Haunt. They're ghosts, if you guys don't know, for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
And
spooky boys.
Yeah, they're spooky boys. So it makes sense that all of their metal stuff should be ancient and rusted and all that. And it just, chef's kiss every time. I do another one with a brown color that I do over orange, and I think it looks pretty good. But the turquoise and then whatever metal color really works good. But that is what I've done in the hobby. Casey wanted to go last for reasons.
Yeah, so I've done quite a bit in the hobby lately. I'll try to keep this as short as I can. So lately I have been painting my butt off for commissions. I actually was up 9 hours straight on Sunday painting Sanguinary Guard. Yeah, I knocked them out in a day, and it was really nice. It looked pretty good. Took a note out of Austin's book and replicated some of the cloth that he's done before, and I think it looked pretty good.
Oh, yeah, I really like your banner guy.
Yeah, and then after that, I started painting up a Blood Angels Captain, the generic one, not the jump pack boy, and he looks super nice. Man, I hate painting white. I hate it.
White sucks.
Gosh, and you know me, I paint yellow on the reg.
I like painting white.
I hate it.
So I tell you something that I've been looking at.
Too chunky.
Another thing Vince Venturella shows is to tint things with the airbrush, where you take and go like 2 or 3 to 1 with your medium versus your color till you get it just just spraying colored water, essentially. And what you can do is you can get up underneath things and in the crevices of things and tint them, and that for white works so good because you could take a color from your base and spray it up under there and get like this effect that your white thing is in this area, because white is at some level going to reflect at least the warm and the cool of whatever it's around. And I mean, I don't know, man. I'm getting where I really enjoy some white.
Well, surprisingly, after that, I went to go airbrush and batch paint a few things with my crappy little airbrush, which exploded on me.
Boom.
Yeah.
Exploded.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what's going on with it. There was a clog somewhere. I cleaned it out like 2 or 3 times. Ran some cleaner through it, cleaned it out with the toothbrush, took it apart, put it back together. The whole thing, it looked completely clean, but for some reason it was clogged and spraying like spraying like to the right. Like a day, the morning after a hot day, just all the way to the right.
Right.
And I'm just like, what is going on here? So I fitted a different. What do you call it? Like a tip, the part that screws off.
Yeah?
Yeah, I put a new one on there, and it was clean, so I figured this must be the problem. And then all of a sudden, it starts backflowing into the water, or into the paint container, and then the paint container just pops right off, and red just got all over me.
I don't even understand what happened there.
Yeah.
That's a very odd situation.
I mean, I know what happened.
I come inside. My wife's like, "Why is there red all over you?"
She's like, "You bleeding?"
Yeah, I was like, "I'm more concerned you didn't think I was dying." Yeah, that happened.
Huh. So, did you fix it?
No, I haven't attempted to fix it yet, but hopefully, maybe I'll just get a new one. Maybe this is a sign.
Well, here's what's wrong with it. You've got paint all the way back. Not just at the tip, but back behind the trigger.
I thought that too.
Yeah, and so what you need to do is, I mean, the airbrush part of this thing, because Casey's got an all-in-one. It's got the compressor built onto it, battery powered, attached to the bottom. You can take the whole airbrush off of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You take every single piece that can come apart, and you put it in a bowl full of isopropyl alcohol, like the 91%.
All right.
91% yo. And you put it in your fridge for like all night. Then tomorrow, you take all those pieces, run you some pipe cleaner through it, or take your needle and flip it around so you've got thick side and push that through, and all this gunk's going to come out. You're going to know there's a lot of gunk out because when you come back to it, as soon as you pick it up, gunk's going to fall out into the bowl because that isopropyl alcohol is going to break down these acrylic paints entirely. And you're going to find so much goop up in and around that channel between your trigger and the reservoir, and that's where it's backed up to.
I feel like this is a miniature painting, like car talk.
The airbrush thing is like owning a motorcycle or something. It's always a little bit of a mechanical.
Yeah, every time
problem.
I have a problem with airbrushes, Shane is just like on the spot, yo. And but last thing I'd like to talk about, I owe Shane an apology.
Oh?
Yes, I owe Shane an apology. So recently we mentioned in the last podcast, we played a game together, and I thought it'd be better to give it some time to sit, but I did not behave very well. I think most of my problem was I was mad that I was mad.
It was that I was whooping that.
Yeah, you were coming at me pretty hard, the uppy-downy stuff, interrupting my turn and all that stuff, and it kind of got me there. It was also like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning?
It was past your bedtime. It was the middle of my day. I woke up at 3:30 today.
It was a school night, folks. And it was rough. Lost by 1 point. So,
wow.
Yeah. And I almost tabled his army, too.
You lost by 2 points.
Okay, 2 points. 2 points. Let's give him that. Yeah, and I just got mad. But I think what really bothered me, we talk about it all the time, about competitiveness and the problem with competitive play and how people get mad and how it's something we're not really into it. Like, why are you mad? Like, why? But I was definitely ashamed of how I behaved, which made me even madder and kind of played into it. So, yes, I owe you an apology because I never thought that I could do that.
Well, I do not accept your apology and will
Oh,
never
you-
play again. Close the Bitz Box. Casey thought up this topic, and it does segue well with your last point.
Yeah.
And my eternal fury at you for your
flame.
Yeah, for your I don't know what we even call that.
Lit fam.
Yeah. But what we're going to do today is give our individual best and worst 40K experiences. They can be games, they can be things in the hobby, they could be whatever. I've got a couple of games. I also have an honorable mention if you guys don't tell long enough stories. Now, we're
Yeah.
going to try because it's hard enough to get games in this town. Looking at you, Austin. And his 2 games of Old World lifetime.
There you go.
I don't know what's going on.
He's adding you right now.
Every week. Who wants to play? Silence. People leaving the chat.
Crazy. It's a fun game. I played it once with you, and
Yeah.
I've seen it played a couple of times, and at no point do I think, I don't not want to do that.
It'd be like that sometimes, though, isn't it?
It's so silly.
Ghost.
The rules are so silly. It's great. It's going to be... I cannot wait till they give me something to buy, or until Austin paints all 2,000 points of his goblins and dwarves so that I can just bum games off of him, which would be an acceptable state, I imagine.
Who's going first?
That's why I got 2 armies.
There you go.
Look,
But, yeah.
that's a real thing, right? Like, I mean, we're going to get into the main topic in a minute. Somebody in the comments can say where the main topic starts. But sometimes you just have to be like, I want to play this game. How am I going to do it? I'm just going to bring the whole damn thing to your house. Right? By God, we're playing. If you like it, good. You can get your own stuff.
There
if
you
you
go.
don't, you know what we're going to do? In a month or so, we're going to run it back with what I got.
Sometimes you just got to bootstrap your own games.
That's right. You got to bootstrap your own games. I mean, look,
I don't know what Bootstrap is, but okay.
we know. After last week, we know. Anyway, I mean, do either of you own a single Judge Dredd miniature?
Nope.
Exactly. Both of y'all have played Judge Dredd, I think. In case you played Judge Dredd with me, no?
No, we've talked about it.
Oh, yeah, you got to come play some Judge Dredd.
I want to.
The wife doesn't want to play Judge Dredd. She wins all the time with her gangers, and
She's
yet
like, it's too boring now.
I mean, she doesn't like how quick you get killed. It's from the same guy that wrote Necromunda and all that. Casey nearly pulled the entire recording rig off the table.
That's fine.
But let's get into it. Who wants to go first on their story? Oh, like I said, we're going to try not to name names and whatnot. But if you know, you know, and so you can do with
Learn and
that.
grow.
Yeah.
If you know, you'll learn and grow.
I was going to say suck it, but
Do we want to do like a all around, all of us doing negative first and then ending on positive, everyone?
I think I feel like that the internet loves the negativity.
It does.
I feel like we should end on just the worst crap we can conceive of.
All right, let's do it.
Let's start with the positive.
Positive. Austin, kick this thing off, bud.
Okay, so the best experience I ever had with 40K was back in 8th edition, back in 2019. This was right at the start of my 40K career. So we got a guy named Gabe locally.
Homie Gabe.
Yeah, he's a good friend. He's the one that helped me get into 40K and learn the ropes of it all. And we were doing a custom game. Sort of, we took rules from Vigilus Ablaze, I think that's what it's called, the 8th edition campaign book. And we took that and decided to make our own variation of the mission, which involved a demon prince trying to perform a ritual. And I had Custodes at the time, and he had Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines, so he let me take the Space Marines and my Custodes as my force, and he had his Chaos Space Marines. And we took terrain from the game store and kind of set it up in such a way that it looked sort of like a siege, like we were sieging a fort. And the game plan was we had this interesting sort of almost like castle-looking terrain, and we had that be like the main fortress. We had the Demon Prince inside that doing the ritual, and then had all the Chaos Space Marines on the battlements ready to fire down to protect the Chaos Ritual. And then we had Custodes. Well, hold on, backtrack. We had the Space Marines trying to do the siege first, try to approach the walls, do everything meat grinder style. And while that's happening, we have the Custodes up in space in the ships ready to teleport down, deep strike into the fortress to confront the Demon Prince head on. And We ended up having Space Marines storming the walls. They just got gunned down completely. We had a Thunderhawk gunship come in, did some heavy obliteration and everything, and then we had the Custodians come in, save the day, killed the Demon Prince. And it was just a massive battle, and it was the most fun I ever had. Just the storytelling and the narrative involved with that.
Yeah, you guys actually played 40K as every other miniature game that I can think of.
Like when it started.
We were telling a story, and that was the best part.
There you go.
We had everyone felt like a character in a play.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far removed from the game as it stands now. And I think that it's important to highlight that you can still do that.
Yeah.
And the main thing is, this wasn't even like a match play game at all. This was just us bullcrapping our way through all this. I can say that on this podcast. But we were just making stuff up as we went, and we're having fun with it. And that's the goal of the game, is to have fun. We're all here with our toy soldiers to have fun. We're not here to just stomp face and, I don't know, compensate for whatever's going on in our life.
I like it.
That's pretty dope. I like that.
Casey
kicking it off with the second story.
The second
story.
story.
Positive story, yeah. So I would say this was very early days for me. I, as you know, I got most of my army basically off of eBay, all of it broken, most or put together from bits that I just either borrowed, scavenged, had, use what works kind of thing. And orcs are not exactly cheap models. They are not. So I got together with this guy, and we were up at our local gaming community house. Got a table together. I think it was early 9th, maybe late 8th. Yeah, late 8th, and it was Mortarion, Blight Lord Terminators against some boys, a couple cans, and some grots.
Quite a matchup.
Yeah, it was. It was not great, but we like what you guys did. We told a story like, hey, some upstart orc war boss and his boys got a pain boy, and now they want to take on Mortarion because they think they got better needles.
Yeah.
So we fought, we played. I took devastating losses,
I imagine,
and then it finally all came to a head when my war boss and pain boy charged Mortarion, and then my war boss died, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. This is over. And then here comes my pain boy, one wound left, with the war gear, the Killer Claw, one strike, and down goes Mortarion.
Wow.
He was like making a half court shot.
Were you guys
the last minute of the game on the buzzer?
Were you guys even playing many of the abilities and things, or was it a little bit more like first learning game, just data sheet versus data sheet?
Well, it was very data sheet versus data sheet because it was, like I said, very early for me. I was a basic scrub, had no idea how to play the game. He actually taught me quite a bit, and we just sat down, played it out, and rolled, had fun, told the story.
I'll say those games where you have the one character or even the one like just model like Grunt who accomplishes the impossible. That's the games that you will talk about forever.
Like Shane's Terminator.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of those. I have so many more games than you two, and so I'm a psycho. And the way that I learned 40K was I got the 9th edition rulebook, and then read through the entirety of the 9th edition rulebook, like twice, and then figured out the whole virtual tabletop. What's it called? Why can't I think of what it's called?
Tabletop Simulator?
Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, yeah.
Got that whole thing set up.
Oh, no.
Loaded in the combat patrol that I had bought and a different one, and then proceeded to just play myself, crunching through the 9th edition rulebook one page at a time. That is a hard way to learn the thing, by the way. But
You played like a dude playing chase against himself, huh?
yeah. But you do that 2 or 3 times, and you can rock up to the store and just play. So that was not one of my positive Warhammer stories, but I think that's interesting how we have such different experiences at the beginning. But my favorite, probably best Warhammer moment was with the homie Craig at his house, outdoors, the Craig Spring Invitational. What we've started to do is whoever's house, time of year, invitational, because it makes it sound like a golf tournament, right?
What's outdoors?
That's outdoors. So I went to the homie's Craig's house. We'd played a few times, and we'd played a lot of different things. But on this particular day, I think we might have been playing. This might have been a day that we were doing a White Dwarf mission, which is really fun. And it rained on us.
I remember that.
And so we are out there playing 40K in a spring drizzle.
Oh my gosh.
In the sunlight, because it never did get cloudy. It was just sunny and warm, but at some point it started to drip on us, and we just played. And I was like, this is a really unique scenario. This is a zig where others zag type of thing. You know, this is not in the game store where it all smells like farts. This is not in a tiny bedroom where you can't get around. This is not in a highly specialized space like I have where, you know, it's just a couple cameras away from being YouTube.
I have a question.
Yes?
Did the mission involve chilling rain?
I don't think the mission did involve chilling rain, but it did.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
It did. That might have been the day we played this ritual type mission, similar to what you're talking about.
I think the one that you're talking about is a descendant of mine for 8th edition.
Yes, and this thing was in a White Dwarf, and I feel like I'm mixing up two of our good games, because I've never gone to the homie Craig's house and not had a good game. Whether we're playing, I mean, he's got a table inside too, which one half of the table you just have to reach to. You can't walk around it.
He's so much fun to play.
Yeah, but I believe it might have been this day that he was playing his Death Watch, and I had my Chaos Space Marines, and the White Dwarf mission was that my guys had to complete a ritual by keeping my Warlord, Abaddon, within so many inches of the center for however long. And I had 2,000 points of Space Marines, and it wasn't until we were on turn 4 that he informed me, which I knew because he had sent me the mission, but I guess I didn't read it, that he was playing 3,000 points of Death Watch.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, man, they just keep coming.
Oh boy!
And you know they've got just this ridiculous amount of weapons. You know, until they got legended recently, just crazy amounts of missile launchers and all this stuff. And I'm just absorbing shots. But I've got all the terrain and all the cover, and you know, Abaddon. It was great. And then the rain came.
The boy.
Just enough that my rhino's got some little coffee stains on the top of it, which is fine because that thing is painted poorly.
Smash Mouth song over there. Don't stop coming.
And it don't stop coming. Well, there's the positive. Now we get to the thing that people really want to hear about. Assault.
Oh.
Casey? Or Austin, I guess. Austin.
What are you looking at me for?
Okay, my negative story is also an 8th edition.
Ooh.
Same year, actually. So we were getting games around that time for a league, and we were getting a whole lot of fun with that. Just absolutely a blast. And then one day, I think it was a slow day. No one had really come in yet, and I was kind of just hanging out. And then we have this guy come in. I'm not going to name any names, but he was kind of known in the community for not being the best sport all around. And he sees me, and we kind of start talking. He's like, well, you know, I can bring my 40K stuff up here if you want, and we can have a game. And I go, oh, yeah, let's have a game. I'm new. I'm like, I'll play anyone. And I'm playing my Custodes. I've got a small 1,004 of Custodes. I've got mostly just like the infantry and everything, Trajan, Valoris, and guy on a bike. And he goes, let me see what you got real quick. I go, okay, well, here's my guys. And I'm like, look how nicely painted they are. Look at all the gold and everything. He's like, oh, yeah. And then he's like, okay, let me go get my stuff. And I wait, and then he comes back, and he's rocking a big box, and from out of the box, he starts pulling out Thousand Suns.
Oh.
Which, if you're a Custodes player in 8th edition, you know that is basically your kryptonite with the Mortal Wound spam. Mm-hmm. And also starts pulling out Chaos Knights at 1,000 points. So we go to play, and I'm thinking, oh wow, this is a little odd. Why is it such a counter to my build? And we proceed to play, and it's like turn 1. He's like, yeah, the Chaos Knight's gonna obliterate that unit and blow it away. Also, here's another thing I forgot to mention. He had his girlfriend with him, and he was like, "Watch this, babe. Watch this. Rolling those dice, and having her like kiss the dice, blowing these dice, babe, and then rolling. Go boom! Look at that.
What?
Obliterating my guys and being like, okay, I'm gonna cast like just death, magic death, kills Custodes everywhere, and." He like tables me turn 2, and he's like, "You good game, right?" And I'm like, I don't want to shake your hand. Like, I'm being negative back, but I'm like,
yeah.
I'm not.
Was she into this?
No, she's
like, "Babe, you're so hot right now."
She was like, "Oh yeah," just like mushing up on him.
Really?
Oh, so she was into it.
Oh,
wow.
I thought you were being sarcastic there for a second.
And then yeah, I was like, I did like a 180 from that table, and I saw Jonathan, the store owner, and a couple guys playing Middle-earth strategy battle games.
Oh, gosh.
And that day, I spent $100 on Middle-earth strategy battle games.
Got twice.
And had another great miniature experience with that.
Man, that is terrible.
Wow.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Name this D-bag.
Oh,
I am not going to name him, but I'm sure some people have some context clues.
Wow. If you know who Austin's talking about, get in the comments and shame them before the world. That guy is a loser. But I guess not that day. What would he have done if it had gone wrong?
Oh, right?
That sounds like somebody that would get tilted.
So you say that, but I have another miniature experience I had. I don't know if we want to talk about this now, but it was a different guy, and we had a flip scenario on that.
Where he didn't expect it to go wrong, and it went absolutely wrong.
Yeah, arrogance falls mightily.
Casey, your worst 40K experience?
Well, I've never flown too close to the sun, like someone's mentioned before, but I've had a couple times where pretty rough. I left that shop, I left the game store pretty down to the dumps. Once or twice I have played a few games, and I will admit this one has a really rough connotation. Went to a game, tournament actually, 1,000 points. I think it was 9th edition. Played a game with some cool cats. Had a lot of fun. And, well, it just came my turn to play this guy who was a very experienced player. And he had this full-blown list of Custodes. What do they call the big dreadnought? The Telemon?
Telemon.
Yeah. Telemon dreadnought, kitted out, super rad paint job. And he starts playing like a pro. And for some reason, he's rolling a little too well.
Too well.
A little too well. I was like, can you show me the rule on this Telemon dreadnought? Like where it says that it can, I don't know, like heroically intervene or improve its shots or something like that, or get rerolls. And, well, he claimed that it was an army rule, and it applied to his Telemon dreadnought. And I looked at the classifications. He was like, my bad. I guess I've been playing 3/4 of this game and had a broken rule. He was like, fine. And I was like, yeah, you're good. You're totally fine.
Don't give him an inch.
Yeah. Well, I was cool about it. It was a 1,000-point tournament. Only a few of us there. We're all friends. And then quickly, he proceeded to play 2 other guys. And I would listen. And I was like, hey, man, I let you know about this a minute ago. You can't do that.
Yeah, at that point, you got to leave, right?
And
like,
third game comes around, does the same thing, and the guy he played the one before that says, hey, man, knock it off. So he did that 3 times.
I mean, that is just blatant cheating.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Ooh.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Sorry, I'll take that back.
I mean, I didn't know. You get 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, my bad. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
If I need to be disqualified, then them's the breaks, right? That's
Yeah.
what you say. What you do not do is then move on to the next round and
Yep.
say, all right, back to what I was doing.
It was an out-of-town tourney. I thought the guy was a cool cat, but he proceeded to do that, and we were very livid because it was like nobody was really paying attention. There were no refs. We had to police ourselves, and here he comes, like all sixes.
Yeah, so here's my thing about that, and I am not a good under most circumstances, I am not a good example of like a default character in this world. But
Built different.
well, I mean, I'm a crazy person, right? So I would be like, "Yo, everybody, look, this is totally messed up." All right? Just so everybody knows, because people do that. Like that what you're saying is a very common way that people cheat, is that they go and they cheat,
Yeah.
and then someone calls them out, and then they just walk to the next table for round 2 and go right back to cheating because
Exactly.
there's no communication. Look, these game stores are tiny. It takes you 2 seconds to throw your hand up and say to the entire group, like, "Hey, yo, this guy was getting this rule totally wrong.
Fair.
It's cool. He's not going to do it anymore."
Flame them.
Yep. And
Flame him because he's wrong.
Right.
All right.
And
If I'm wrong, do the same to me. Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because we're not talking about, oh shoot, I got that rule wrong. We're talking about this fool thought that his army rule was doing something wild the whole time.
Yeah, but he played it off in a positive way. It's just a game. Don't take it seriously. Not trying to be competitive. And it taught me that day, when you play 40K or a tabletop game, know your rules and be confident when you do play. Don't let people roll over you.
That's so ridiculous. That's diabolical.
Right?
So my worst experience playing 40K was actually against a guy that I like to play. The homie Austin, not the homie Austin here.
Oh.
Oh,
But what happened was,
get added.
is the homie Austin, he's got Necrons, and he recently picked up Drukhari.
Ooh.
And I said, hey, who wants to play? I've got a fortification.
Fortification.
Oh, gosh.
All right.
That's right.
So I finished my Noctilith Crown. And I go, and he's like, yeah, I'll play. I'm like, look, I'm bringing a fortification. So, like, meme lists, okay? Well, it appears that there are 2 meanings to meme list. There's meme list of this stuff is silly, and then there's meme list of this stuff is silly. So he brought silly, and I brought silly. And what happened was, is he brought the Drukhari, and Dark Lance spammed me to death.
Oh, no.
He killed everything he looked at for the entire game, and it was immediately clear when we started to lay out to deploy armies that, oh, we've both had a misunderstanding,
We got,
right?
like the Weenie Hut Junior Army.
So this at once, I'm calling it my worst 40K experience, but it probably isn't. Like, I've had some less fun games.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't get tilted or anything, but it was like, oh, this is not very fun. He's doing D6 plus 2 damage from dudes that are just standing out in the open,
Yeah.
blowing my tanks up, blowing my guys up, absolute destruction everywhere, right? And again, he realized it too at point of deployment that, oh no, we've misunderstood the social contract, right? Because that is why I'm bringing this up, so that I can talk about what makes and breaks a good tabletop gaming experience. Is what are your expectations of it? What is it supposed to be? When you and Gabe played your super narrative 3 different army siege mission, the idea was we're going to play with our toys with some amount of structure and see what happens in the scenario.
Of course.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you played with just sort of data sheet, stat line versus stat line in that early game and managed to kill Mortarion, that's awesome, because it was just about, we're going to bang these things together. That's the best way to have it, whether it's we're showing up to be sweaty, we're showing up to win, or I've brought a fortification in 10th edition.
Let's see what this does.
Hammerfall bunker, go.
That's right. It turns out it does very little. Very, very little is what it does. But it was such a good highlight for someone that I've played before, where the games are always great, always positive vibes, and then that time it was like, oh man, neither of us are having fun. He's rolling huge damage all the time, blowing my stuff up, and I'm out of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like the score is out of control. I'm not bringing enough. My list was not tuned enough for it to even be a meaningful rep for him for tournaments, you see? And so the whole time we spent more time discussing, like, this Darklands thing is kind of silly. Like, what if every unit could only bring one, and then you have to bring the other weapons? And we said, like, we should do this again sometime and just do that and see what happens.
Gears returning.
Yeah, which was its own bit of interesting and fun. But, man, if you're not... I could see how people that don't maybe don't even understand the concept of the social contract thing.
Yeah,
I got the new 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide for D&D, and I was reading through it, and it talks so much about the expectation of the players, the Dungeon Master, the type of game, and things like that. It's really good. They cooked in the new 5th edition DMG, and it's like, man, this is great stuff that is talked about a lot by YouTubers that are out of stuff to talk about, but it is so valuable.
Yeah. Social contracts is really important in tabletop games. If you're traveling to a store, meeting someone face to face, and knowing what our intentions are with throwing toys on the table.
Yeah. Common courtesy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not that common because the game is laid out as
common courtesy.
The game is laid out as a war game, which implies competition and destruction of one side, but that's not actually what we're trying to do.
I don't have to smash my opponent?
No, you don't. Not always.
Oh.
But sometimes they're a cheating jerk, or somebody having their girlfriend blow on their miniatures gaming dice. Stop that. Hit us with the exclusive Space Marine segment. We're almost out of time. Be sure to comment your best and worst 40K experiences. Hey, maybe some of them are with us.
There you go. All right. So, your exclusive Space Marine segment for this week. Did you know Thousand Sun Dreadnoughts are not Thousand Suns? Stay fanatical, folks.